It's the same if we're trying to have a career at work. If we really want to be our best for that meeting, for that presentation, for that article, then we've really got to look after ourselves like athletes. And it's counterintuitive, but this idea where you work all the hours that you can and you're connected all the hours that you can, and somehow you're supposed to be at your best, it's a ridiculous thought.
Welcome home to You Are the Compass with producer and host Jessie Clayton. This is a podcast about the turning points in life that awaken us to new directions and the inner guidance that helps us navigate them. Reset your headings as we dive deep with guest interviews, quick fine-tune series, and inspiration from all corners of the globe. From wherever in the world you have joined from today, you have arrived. Hi, and welcome home to You Are the Compass. I feel at this point in time in our present environments, whether we are listening to podcasts, our jam on SoundCloud, or sitting down at the end of the day to watch the latest episode of that new series on Netflix, the digital world is ever present. It's constantly evolving, and it's come to a point where one needs to take stock in where they are not only getting their information from, but how much time are we actually investing into these platforms on a daily level? Constantly, I'm met with others saying, oh, I just don't have the time. Well, you do. It's just that your news feed on your phone is taking priority. With this thought in mind, I'm delighted to introduce to the show Digital Detox Coach Colin Corby.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
I realised that had a little bit of alliteration there, DD, triple C. I know, Colin, welcome home to You Are the Compass. It's great to have you and to have our coordinates set over to you. You're in the UK at the minute, is that right?
Yes, we've just entered autumn.
Us here too? Oh, no, the opposite. We're in Australia, the opposite. So we're going to be putting our clocks forward soon, whereas you'll bring them back.
Yeah.
Well, if I can start off in the coaching space, as I feel there's so many coaches out there these days, even AI fitness bots are cycling through my social media. Can you tell us exactly what Digital Detox Coach is and where this all started?
Well, I'll start off by saying what is digital detox, because there's a lot of misconceptions. So I use my definition is it's a period of time when you're offline. Now that can be as short as 20 seconds if you're just resting your eyes from a screen, or a week away in nature, and everything in between. But for most of us that have to work, the most important digital detoxes are the 10 to 15 minute regular breaks during the day, and the boundaries that we set for when we're in the real world or when we're in the virtual world. So that's really the definition of digital detox. So what does a digital detox coach do? Well, when people find that they're not achieving what they really want to achieve in life because they're always busy, they're always online, they've never got time to do anything. One of the reasons for that is that when you're on your smartphone, it's a bit like being in a sweet shop. Now, I like chocolate. I love chocolate, to be honest.
I do too.
And if I'm in a sweet shop, chances are I'm going to eat some chocolate. So when we're online and we're being bombarded with all this exciting stimulation, great apps, entertainment, we find it very, very difficult to do the things that we really want to do because, hey, look, there's another shiny thing. Oh, there's another shiny thing. Another email. We receive more information than we can process, and it's an impossible situation. So digital detox coaching is about saying, well, look, if there are things that you really want to do and you find that you're not able to do it, then let's look at balancing the time that you spend online for all the great things that we do with technology with all the really important things that you want to do. But we also balance that with what you need as a biological human. Now, what I mean by that is, if we're sitting down all day looking at our screens, or our computers, we're not moving about. We're not getting enough exercise. We might be looking at our phones first thing in the morning and last thing at night. We might not be getting enough sleep. And that's really important for us biological animals. We might not be getting a good diet. And importantly, we might have mistaken communication online, which is really useful, particularly during the COVID pandemic, with real communication face to face, which as social animals we need. And there was a lovely pamphlet article issued by the US Surgeon General, and it was called The Loneliness Epidemic. And there was a lovely phrase, which was, we're the most connected people ever. But why is there a loneliness epidemic? And the reason is because online communication isn't the same thing as real communication, physical communication. And as biological humans, we need all of those things. So really, digital detox coaching is about finding the balance for the person in particular between what they need to be healthy, what they need to work and be online, and what they really want to achieve. And that's really
I guess that's different with everyone, isn't it?
It is. Everyone's experiences will be different, and everyone's needs will be different. And the things they want to do are different as well. But there are certain things about being online which makes it difficult to exercise free will. Exercising free will takes a lot of energy and resources. And if we're tired or we're not paying attention, we just slip into autopilot.
Would you say that that's increasing on a weekly basis, on a daily basis for people? Like I find now I'll be watching something on TV. It'll spark my mind to be, that's why I've got to go and research that thing for work the next day. And I'll open up Google, and in that instant, I will forget what I was searching for in the first place.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh my God, is that just me or is that happening on a wide stream scale?
So what we have to remember is that we have short-term memories. We're designed to have short-term memories. And I always used to refer to it as the doorway effect. We've all been in the kitchen and we thought, yeah, we must get that thing upstairs. And then we walk through the doorway and we get upstairs and we think, what was that I was supposed to be getting? So we have short-term memories which contain a certain number of things, depending on the complexity. Some say it's 4, some say it's 7 items. And we instantly forget them. So if you go on your mobile phone, and I've done it. So I'm from the UK, so we look at the weather a lot.
Of course you do.
It hasn't rained too much this summer, but we look at the weather. And I've gone onto my phone thinking, I'm going to look at the weather. And then I think, oh, look, I've got some emails, or I've got some messages, or I really want to check this. And sometimes I forget completely what it was that I wanted to do. And that's all due to short-term memory. But if you say, I want to do something, and if you work on that idea, then it transfers from short-term memory into normal memory. But the best thing is, the best friend you've got is a notebook and pen.
Yeah.
And so if you have a notebook and pen, and I do it all the time, I write the things down when they come into my mind, and I can always refer back to them. So that's a function of humans. And the great thing about the apps that we use is they're designed to maximize our attention on them.
Yes.
And okay, there's an advertising agenda and one or two other things to keep us online. And the apps have to be good apps anyway to keep our interest. But they're designed to maximize the time online. So they play to our weaknesses. Famous magicians do it all the time. The magician will do a card trick. We can't see what's happened. Part of the time, it's because our short-term memory has forgotten what we've seen.
100%. It's like when you're learning a new skill, I always say this to people, like, you might have to keep explaining it to me at least 6 times over, but I'll remember another piece of information. Like, I think we only retain like 30% of like this whole conversation that we're having now. My brain will only be able to retain 30% of it. Tell me, Colin, where did this all start for you? Like I am in my 30s, but I remember like dial-up internet. I remember having to, put money in the phone box and, the little dial pad and everything. And I used to record songs off the radio on cassette tapes. So where did this spark come from that you realized there was a need to, I guess, maybe be aware that this is happening, but not shy away from leaning into the technology and how it is helping us in a lot of ways, in more ways than, this is how we are having this conversation, but just being mindful to not let it overtake your life?
So I've always worked in technology, and I've had the privilege of working on world first projects in various companies or the latest technologies. So I love technology, and I've always been interested in technology. But in my mid-30s, I had a great job. I had great colleagues. I was working long hours in London, and I started to get dizzy at work, started to pass out. But I had a young family. I had a mortgage. I'm thinking, well, this isn't good. And it happened quite a few times. So I had lots of tests, and they didn't show anything. So I thought, well, what is it that I can do? What is it that I can control? And I thought, well, I can get fit. Because what was happening is my heart rate was going up and up and up due to stress. But of course, stress wasn't talked about, to the point where you get stars in your eyes and you start to get dizzy. So I thought, well, I can get fit to exercise my heart. So I've always swam. I live near an estuary, so I've always been a swimmer. So I went to the swimming pool and I swam a couple of lengths and I was wrecked. Totally wrecked. But I had to do something. It was like a tipping point. So I persevered. And so I got fitter. Then I realized I needed to take lessons on how to do the strokes properly. So I took lessons for a year and a half. Then I started racing in masters racing. And then I did, because I was now fitter, my heart just went up and went down and, things were much better. I thought, well, this is interesting. What else can I do? And I was asked to swim with a triathlon club. And I said, I don't have to do the cycling or running. And I said, no, you can just do the swimming because I just like to swim. They lied. They loaned me a bike and entered me for triathlons. And they lied, yes. So I did some triathlons, and then I thought, well, this is interesting because the way that we think and the way that we talk to ourselves is really important. So I wonder if I can do an Ironman. So first of all, I thought, well, actually, there's a marathon at the end of that. I wonder if I can do a marathon. So I entered a marathon, and it was the Paris Marathon. And, that was hard, really hard. And I thought, well, I survived. So then I entered an Ironman, and I did an Ironman triathlon in the UK. And the swim's easy. The swim in an Ironman, the swim is very easy. But the bike and the run are really hard. But you've got 17 hours. So, yeah, it's a hard day's work. And then afterwards, I got slightly depressed. So I entered another one the next year, and then another one. And then I did a 10-year anniversary. So, but during that time, I'd worked out this psychology of the mind and how just sort of stretching what you think you can do and questioning the limitations that you put on yourself, how interesting it is. And so for me, I had to get fitter because without it, the stress was causing me difficulties at work. Of course, once I got fitter, no problems whatsoever with stress, racing off the blocks. So how this relates to digital detox is that in around about 2010, bearing in mind the first iPhone was 2007, I started finding I was spending more and more time on my phone. And I thought, well, this is interesting. I love technology. I love sport, but I'm spending too much time on my phone and I'm starting to struggle to fit in the sport, which I have to do for my own health. And I thought, well, what's going on here? And so that passion for psychology in sport flipped across to see, well, what's going on? with why are we so intrigued and attached to our mobile devices and our apps. So that's really where it first started. And then about 10 years ago, I had an opportunity to leave the corporate world and all the technology companies.
Yes, because I was going to say you still stayed there, but was able to mitigate that stress level by doing, the marathons, by doing the triathlons and the swimming, and incorporate that into your daily work life. You were able to do that. Yes.
Because for me, I had to do it in order to work.
Yeah.
And I was lucky because it was that simple for me.
Yeah.
And so I worked for lots of technology companies, a Cambridge innovation company, and all the time I was able to take the pressure because effectively the body had more pressure in sport. Mm-hmm. I mean, once I swam at the European Swimming Championships, Masters Championships. Wow. And it was in Stratford, not because I was going to win it, but because I made the entry times. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to swim in an Olympic pool? Exactly. In one of those championships. Sprinting stress is quite extreme. Endurance sport doesn't matter. You've got ages to do whatever it is you're going to do, but sprinting stresses. But I had to work in the corporate world because I had a family, I had a house to pay for, all the usual sorts of things. Mm-hmm. But when I did have a chance to say, well, okay, what is it I really want to do? And I decided, I really don't want to do any more corporate stuff. I love technology. I love psychology of the mind. And I love this idea that we're just being drawn into this world of being on the phone all the time. And we feel we're powerless, but actually we have all the power we need if only we thought a little bit like athletes. So with my digital detox, I said, well, why would you want to go to work and not be your best? Why would you want to sit down with your family and not pay attention? And how can I communicate that? And one of the ways is, well, people generally appreciate that athletes, they get enough sleep, they eat the right food. They can't train 24 hours a day. They need lots of rest and recovery. They need lots of people around them to coach them and to inspire them. They do the same in mentoring. So they've got all the attributes. Well, it's the same if we're trying to have a career at work. If we really want to be our best for that meeting, for that presentation, for that article, then we've really got to look after ourselves like athletes. And it's counterintuitive, but this idea where you work all the hours that you can and you're connected all the hours that you can, and somehow you're supposed to be at your best, it's a ridiculous thought.
We're there for so much of our day. At work, at a 9-to-5 job. I mean, I'm doing this at the minute full-time podcasting, but it's working for me because I'm so passionate about it. And I'm like, I want to learn more about this and do this little technology feature and incorporate this into the show. So I guess it's about finding in your life what you do want to do. I mean, you had the health scare, like the stress levels were here, and they needed to come back down. But people might be really passionate about their work, but then they're not getting enough time for the family at home, or they're distracted because they're so fixated on doing well in the next sales meeting at work without sort of saying, well, how can I get myself to that mindset? How can I have the time for the family but still have time to support that lifestyle if that's what I want? I know that you said your red flag was the stress levels, so much so that, you went off and get all the testing done. What would be, in this day and age, in 2025, what would be a red flag for someone that's not in that athletic space, that elite athlete? What would be a few little, you might want to do a bit of fine tuning?
So there are the more serious ones are basically tiredness, that feeling of overwhelmed. And those are the ones that we've got to be careful of, or the feeling stressed. Because if stress, because we're online all the time, stress builds up
Mm.
if we don't take rest and recovery breaks. And a lot of people seem to be suffering burnout. And you really don't want to get to that position, because that's a sort of, oh, I can't do anything now. And that takes a long while to recover. But for most people, we've got bad digital habits. And so you can do some fun things, like if you feel anxious, if you don't have your smartphone with you, I mean, you can just put it in one room and try and do something else. But if you feel anxious, if you feel that pull, then maybe your digital habits are taking over. Or if you're out with your friends and you all get your phones out, but you're supposed to be out with your friends. They could be your best friends, but they're not really, because your best friend's your phone. So if you notice things like that, and if you're a parent and you feel that you need to look at your phone rather than play with your child when they want attention, then that's a warning sign that maybe there's a better balance. The same is true as if you've got a dog and your dog wants attention, but you want to be on your phone. That's a terrible thing. I've got a dog, and dogs need attention, just like children.
What sort of dog do you have, Colin?
It's a Cocker Spaniel. It's a lap dog.
Yeah, so he'll just like come and sit on your lap and push the phone out of your hands.
But I walked my dog the other day, and some children walking to school. I say children, they were in the secondary school, so let's say between 12 and 15. And there was a group of friends, about 5 of them, all boys, all looking at their phone. Not talking to each other, but all looking at their phone. And I'm thinking, yeah, perhaps there should be some helpful advice in schools to say, your friends are your friends. Those connections you make, especially when the brain is developing, are really important for your long-term mental health. So, yeah, so a lot of those things, the simple things. So I've created a Couch to 5K. I don't know if that's known in Australia, but there's
I have heard of something similar to it. It's like, I don't think it's couch, but it's like, it's what you just said, like living room to how you would get yourself to the finish line of a 5K run or something like that.
So in the UK, it's an app done by the National Health Service. So it's no marketing. There's no ulterior motive. It's help you get fit. And then it's really associated with park runs. And I'm sure you have park runs.
We do. They're very popular here. I try and avoid them.
That's such a wonderful thing, but the two things are combined.
Yes.
So those apps get you off the couch in a 9-week program, and you can then run a 5K if you're in reasonable health at the end of it, at whatever speed that you're able to. So I've created a Digital Detox Couch to 5K, and in there are a number of challenges. There's a sleep challenge which says, last time you can look at your phone is now before you go to bed. And in the morning, all you can do is switch off the alarm, and then you set up your whole day. And the hardest one is the just one thing challenge. So you can decide to say, you think, I'm going to check the weather on my phone. That's fine. It's the just one thing challenge. That's all you can do. So you go to your phone and you can check your weather. And that's all you're allowed to do for another 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And then you're allowed to do one other thing. But of course, it's so hard that you might find yourself checking other things. Now, with all these challenges is you mustn't beat yourself up. You should just laugh. You say, my phone got the better of me that time, but next time I'm going to succeed.
I used to leave all my messages unread until I was ready to deal with them. So if a notification comes up on the phone now, well, it won't because it's in Do Not Disturb. But even if I'm at work or, I'm on doing the podcast and a message comes up and I'm not ready to immediately action it, there's no point reading it because it'll just go out of my head. I won't get back to the person, but I'll find time in which to do it later on when I'm ready to have the task at hand to do. Is that sort of similar?
Yes.
Thought process?
Now the thing too is the human brain can't multitask. Okay? You can't do more than one thing using the same cognitive resources. So you might be able to walk and look at your phone because walking is using different cognitive resources, except that you'll probably bump into things more because there is an overlap.
Yeah.
So in order to do more than one thing at a time, so whether you're watching telly, looking at your phone, looking at different screens, you effectively have to stop and start the other thing.
Yeah.
And there was a wonderful book called The Memory Illusion, which described it as almost like an orchestra. In order for an orchestra to play different thoughts, it has to stop and play a new tune. But it does so quickly that it fools us into thinking we can multitask. But what actually happens is we stop starting all the time. It creates, Professor Gloria Mark did a study on attention spans, and she found that it creates more stress, accumulation of stress. It makes us less productive. So either it takes us longer or we have to work faster. But if we work faster, we might make more errors. So lots of things about us as humans are counterintuitive. So we can't multitask. So for all the important things we need to do, we need to single task them. So if you understand the science and you believe the science, then single tasking is more productive.
Yeah.
So that's why we should focus on the important things at work all in one go. That's not to say we shouldn't multitask, because sometimes it's nice to multitask, or we have to in our job. But if we really want to achieve something or be present with other people, then it's better to be single tasking and apply all of your cognitive resources to do that.
I've got a good analogy for that. I was doing a medic qualification a couple of years ago, and I was the lead medic in the scenario. And the trainer was like, okay, I need you to give that injection. Like, it was a dummy sort of lined up and everything. And my focus, you could see my focus going to another sort of casualty on the other side of the room. And he's like, Jesse, like, I need you to be here. Like, I know you're lead medic, but like, they've got the situation, they've got the guy. And I was like, no, they don't. And I didn't get it till 3 weeks after. But he said to me, Jesse, you can't do everything all at once, because nothing gets done to the best of its ability. And it didn't really click with me until I was actually back at work at a cardiology practice, and one of the nurses was just all over the shop. She was focused on this. And I was like, but at the end of the day, what was the main problem? You didn't give that injection. Like, okay, the casualty's like now, passed. And it was such a moment that I had that I was like, yes, I get that now. So I've tried to sort of adopt that approach into everything. So in my everyday life, if I go for a run, it's like I've got to be there in that moment. If I go for a dive or a hike, or I'm hanging out with my friends, like you just said, am I on the phone, or am I connecting with them? Do I have eye contact with them? Do you think, with all the people out there these days that have, ADHD, undiagnosed attention disorders, that we can kind of self-medicate with this method?
So I'm not an expert in ADHD, but we can make things easier for ourselves. So as humans, we're designed, like all other animals, to be easily distracted. It's really important for us historic survival, where there could be wild animals or something dangerous, or other humans. Starting point is we're easily distracted. In order to focus on things, it's a learned skill. Reading for the masses is only several hundreds of years old, certainly in Western Europe. And that process of reading is about training focus. Now, what we're losing in the technology world is our ability to focus, primarily because we have so much information that we just sample it. We just sample everything. So attention spans have reduced. And it was Professor Gloria Mark's work that said for information workers, it's gone from something like 2.5 minutes down to 47 seconds.
Yeah.
And if you look at television, if you look at an advert 15 years ago, the shots are telling more of the story. There's less shot changes.
Yes. Yeah.
And on modern television, it's the person goes in the car, they arrive, they're in the room, they're sipping the coffee. It's really instant to keep our attention. So what we can do is, one of the things that triggers our attention or triggers distraction is the environment.
Mm.
So if you've got the mere presence of a smartphone on your person has a pull, cognitive pull, even if you're not aware of it. Having multiple screens up, multiple tabs up on your computer has a pull on you, even if you're not aware of it. The same with all the messaging apps. So environments are helpful. So if you take a break from your smartphone or your laptop and you go to an offline environment where there are no online things, but there are just, coffee, there's other people, there's books, there's other things you enjoy, whether it's music, then you won't have those triggers to distract you. So your environment's your best friend in terms of taking away the triggers that cause the distraction. So I think that's the simplest thing that we can all do. Have somewhere where we say it's no
This is my
online.
safe space.
It's a sanctuary. In my TEDx talk, we ended up with saying that you need a sanctuary. As humans, we need time to think. A lot of the really important feelings, emotions, ideas, they take a long time to process. So we need time to think, and we can only do that if we're really offline. So yes, a sanctuary is what we all need.
And what would you say, like, the importance of human connection is between our health and well-being?
So there's lots of studies, and the studies are all pointing in the same direction. We're social animals, and if we are alone and are lonely, because we don't feel safe. As social animals, you're in a herd or you're in a tribe, there's an element of safety or survival. It's instinctive in us over hundreds of thousands of years. We don't feel safe. We feel stressed. And there's lots of studies that link life expectancy, lower life expectancy, to loneliness. And lots of mental health issues associated with it. So the one thing that we should all do, especially with children who have grown up with technology, instead of modems and recording off the television and those sorts of things, especially in the early years, is to concentrate on those connections with other people. And that's play, that's group activities, that's being with people. It's so, so important for us as social animals.
I think it's getting more and more prevalent in the schools these days, with tablets and everything like that, instead of writing on the chalkboard even. And it's a very visceral activity to do, but it somehow onboards the information in a different way. It's like you said before, like I find if I write something down pen to paper, I'll retain it more, I'll remember it more, because I'm writing it in my own little secret language or whatever it may be, that I'm going to remember what that reference was for. Whereas I find now, if I put it in my phone or I put it in a little tab pad of, on my MacBook, it's like, why did I have that thought? Or where was that even coming from? Like, what date did I do that on? So it's funny that you say that.
It's so funny because that had a name that's called the Google effect, or digital amnesia.
Google effect. I love it.
And what it is if we know where to find something, for example, Googling it, we no longer remember what it is, but we remember where to find it. Sat-nav is a great example. If you use sat-navs to get to somewhere, as opposed to traditional paper maps, you turn left, you turn right, you get there. And you get there, pretty easily. But you may not remember how you got there. And if there was a unknown diversion, you would have no spatial knowledge about how to get around it. Whereas if you use paper maps, you're more likely to remember. There's some wonderful old research that showed that as well.
You'll have to send that to me.
Now, the other thing is, we're in the world of AI. There's nothing we can do about it. It's an arms race. So now AI is doing some of the thinking for us. So not only do we have information that we've outsourced, so all we know is how to get there, but now some of the more interesting thoughts, how to write that email, how to write that report, how to ask that question, all of these sorts of things. So we're not then practicing doing those. Now, the problem with not having knowledge within ourselves is we're not able then to use that internal knowledge unconsciously with all those associations to problem solve or be creative. So we've got less to work on. So if we outsource our knowledge and skills, we just become more and more dependent on those.
100%. It's kind of like, the sat navs from where they started to now it taking over everything. I find humans are too reliant on these apps, on these technologies to tell them basic human functions.
Yes.
It's 1:00. You should be hungry. You should go for lunch. Go have an hour. But I'm not hungry. I might just be thirsty. Oh, no, my watch is telling me my heart rate's this. I've got to slow down. What are you actually feeling on the inside? And what are you telling your mind? Whatever you're thinking in your mind, it's going to start inputting and outputting in your movement, in your body. It was funny, like I did, speaking about, marathons and stuff. I've never done a marathon. I've never run faster than or more than 5 kilometers at any one time. But there's a city to surf. It's quite famous in Sydney. It's 14 kilometers and it's literally from the city to Bondi Beach. And I said to my friend who I was going with, I said, if I can just do it in under 2 hours, I'll be happy. I've got my music set up. Like, I'm just going to keep going. And we're in the slowest group. There were people with, umbrellas running in there. There were surfboards. There was everything, all these distractions. But the vibe that people had, they were just so energetic. And you just forget, you lose time. Like, you just go with what your mind says. I stopped along the way. I had a quick few sips of water, but I finished. And the time that I got was not that much different to the friend that goes running all the time. And he's like, how did you get that? Like, you don't really run. Like, yeah, you're fit, but you don't really run. And I was like, your mind. If you tell the mind, I'm only going to do 5 kilometers, I need this pace, well, you'll be very down on yourself when you don't get it. So I'll finish it up with this question, but what would you say in someone that's so involved in technology, but then has this ability to see the neurodivergent pathways, what would your advice be to just utilize the apps to the best of their ability? But how can we overcome that with our mind?
So the best piece of advice is that willpower is not enough.
Yeah.
So we have to pre-plan what it is we're going to do and create some new habits. Habits take a long while to create. So with our digital habits, we've been swiping our apps every day for years. So we're going to need to create some new digital habits. There were some studies that suggested that habits take about 66 days on average to form when they go from the conscious thinking about I'm going to do it to I just automatically do it. But it can range to as short as 18 days, but as long as 200 odd days. It depends on complexity. So we're going to have to create some habits. The easiest habits to create are ones that change our environment. And the environment could be a physical place, it could be time, or it could be when we're with people. So simple rules like, when I'm with somebody, I'm not going to look at my phone. A simple rule that says an hour before I go to bed, I'm going to put my phone away. And I'm going to put it in a different room because I know that it will tug at my attention. I'll schedule in my work day a series of 10 to 15 minute breaks. So I can grab a coffee, but when I grab a coffee, I'm not going to look at my smartphone. I'm going to go into the garden. I'm going to talk to someone else. I'm going to do something I enjoy doing in order to recover. So my advice is to change your environment to help you get that balance.
I love that. And one more little thing before we sign off. If you could give your younger self any piece of advice, what would it be?
So when I was young, I probably was like a lot of youngsters where I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was shy. And the great thing about having a mobile phone is, we're making ourselves busy all the time. We don't have to, talk to other people. As I've got older, and particularly as I've got a dog, I'll talk, and I'm running, I talk to anyone. So my advice would be to practice talking to people.
Love it. Well, thank you for practicing talking with me. It's been great to have you on, Colin.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You've been listening to You Are the Compass, and we had Colin Corby all the way from the UK, the Digital Detox Coach.
The musical intro and outro is produced by Ornate Mosh. Interested in your own unique jingle? Connect via the link in the About section of this podcast. Thank you. You have been listening to You Are the Compass, produced and hosted by Jessie Clayton.